right, cool guys. Great. We are going to go ahead and kick this off. So welcome again to our webinar. Today's webinar is going to be a little bit different from our other webinars. In the past, kind of had a slideshow or a presentation or kind of a teaching moment, but this one is going to be a completely open forum. We're going to talk to our very special guest here that I'll introduce in a moment, as well as Arif, who we've met in the past. And today we're just going to talk about commercial solar. It's a very that part of the industry is really exploding right now with all different incentives and different access that they haven't had in the past. And ARKA 360 is very interested in this market. So we've kind of taken a look at it. We've talked to a lot of our customers and kind of seen where they're at with this. So as always, I'm your host. My name is Joe Tanner. I'm the head of U.S. sales for ARKA 360. Join me today is a very special guest, Denny Passaretti. Denny, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. So as you said, I'm Denny Passaretti. I am Chief Technology Officer at Patriot Power Company. I've been in the solar industry for going into my 13th year now, and my experience ranges everywhere from residential solar door-to-door sales into commercial solar integrations, automation, scaling, and modeling. So that being said, I'll hand off the torch.
Awesome. Arif, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Don't be shy.
No, I'm not being shy. I was just trying to come on the right slide. Hello, everyone. So previously we have spoken about services, and so my name is Arif, and I look at software sales, ARKA 360 software sales in US market. So I work under Joe. Joe is my manager here.
It's news to me, but all right.
All right.
Awesome.
Let's get
started. So today we have 5 different points that we want to talk about. First and foremost, just kicking this off is I want to talk about proposal generation time. We all know that from a residential solar experience that time kills deals, but with commercial solar it's a little bit different. So we know that with commercial, there's a lot more specificity. There's a lot more engineering involved. There's a lot more meetings because you're not just meeting with a homeowner, you're meeting with a business. So Danny, I wanted to kind of see from your experience, from just what you've spoken about in your past, like how does time influence a commercial deal? Like if you're, doing 25 megawatts to 250 megawatts.
It's one of the biggest factors, and one of the heaviest impacts is the proposal generation time. Now you're not only coordinating with the business owners, but yourself, as well as engineers, site surveyors, often administrators or maybe building managers, and kind of coordinating with them to get that initial information can be extremely challenging and time consuming. However, if you've ever worked with CEOs of companies or building owners, they tend to want results immediately. So it's a little difficult to make all parties happy, but that's what we're here to solve, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Arif, working with these commercial peoples, what are you hearing? What is their main focus? What is something that they're struggling with, especially with commercial proposals and presentations? And how have you noticed that ARKA has been reaching out and managing these things?
So let's talk about in generic manner. So not about how ARKA is helping. So I have encountered customers in US who are struggling a lot with commercial projects, basically to get the designs done, because there is no software as such who is specifically providing the services exclusively, and at the same time also covering up the other aspects of the commercial projects, that is providing options to order permits, or maybe get the P stampings to get the job quickly done and get started. So people have customers have already complained about that they don't have a platform that they can use, a single platform that they can use to do multiple jobs. So they have to go back and forth on multiple platforms to get the one single project done. So for example, they would be using a CRM platform to manage their leads, and they would be using some AutoCAD software to do one project that takes maybe 8 hours of one person, or maybe if it's a huge project, maybe 1 megawatt or above, or 3 megawatts, it would take maybe 2-3 days. But there are other platforms that are providing similar services, but they're not up to the mark and meeting the customer's requirement. So ARKA 360, in last year, we have launched some really cool features, which is helping solar installers to get what they want. And right now we are at a stage to provide all in one platform. It's pretty easy. You can manage your leads, you can design proposals, no matter even if you want to order permits, you can also do that.
Yeah. So moving to the proposals, and we'll definitely touch on those other points later. Thanks for bringing those up. Like, how does the bottleneck of, okay, I need a proposal, and then, business owner reaches out to a sales company, hey, I need a proposal. Okay, then the proposal has to go, like you were saying, to the different softwares, and multiple people have to get involved. Danny, with your experience, how has it been being able to just say, oh, I know exactly where to go. I have one place that I can manage all of these things. How has that affected not only the time it takes to get the proposal back to the CEO, but also the bandwidth of the people that you're working with, of these engineers, of these sales reps, of these, back end people?
Yeah, so there really hasn't been a centralized resource or technology or software, anything that I can resort to as a one-stop shop for everything that I needed in commercial solar and proposal generation. I'm sure people on this call are familiar with Energy Toolbase and such, and Helioscope, that have wonderful capabilities. However, their modeling maybe isn't up to par, and it's very difficult to sell a 2 megawatt system with multi-millions of dollars in a price tag to somebody who's having a hard time visualizing it. So having all of them in the same place is crucial, as well as the data transfer between the two. It only increases more mistakes, and that's not something that you want to present to a commercial proposal acceptance.
Yeah, absolutely. And so streamlining that, and how has that streamline impacted your customer satisfaction? Now, I come from residential, so I'm not even going to pretend that, I live in the commercial space. And I know that if a homeowner's happy, he's going to tell his friends about it. Is that in the same wheelhouse as commercial? Like, are these CEOs talking to each other? I know probably small businesses, but are these multi-million dollar projects? Are they talking to each other like, hey, I went to Denny and she set me up proper. You should give her a call.
Um, it's not. I wouldn't say it's as common as residential. It's a little bit more common residential to get those handoffs, because these CEOs and business owners, they're busy, and this is often not at the top of their list of things to do. It falls quite far to the bottom, and often only happens due to forced regulations that are happening nearby.
Yeah, yeah. And how are these proposals looking? Like, are they fancy proposals, or are they just numbers on a spreadsheet?
90% of the time I'm seeing numbers on a spreadsheet. I myself
Yeah.
have been guilty of having to do that with the lack of resources and tools that are available. You
Uh-huh.
need really, high-end customization abilities to show exactly the information that's going to be custom tailored to the recipient of that proposal. Now,
Hmm.
every situation in commercial is extremely different,
Yeah.
just like residential. But then I'd say throw in a factor of 10 additional variables that you're not even thinking of at that moment.
Hmm. Hmm. And Arif, you're talking to all these different installers, you're talking to all these different people. When you show them a 3D commercial proposal, what is the initial interaction that you're getting? Is it kind of what Denny was saying, of they're like, oh, we just have numbers on a spreadsheet, or how are they reacting to this?
So yeah, when you show the 3D proposal, it makes it a lot more easier for them to understand, how the property is going to look, where you're planning to install the panels. And not only that, since Denny already mentioned how numbers on the spreadsheets are very boring, and in ARKA 360 we have made it quite interesting in a way there we provide graphical representation, which makes it a lot more easier. So not only that, and just to add one more challenge that commercial installers are facing right now is that financing options. So in our platform, we have integrations done with a couple of financing companies who are providing their financing products there, and they can just get the calculations done in minutes of a couple of minutes. And the same calculations is again reflected in the proposal in a very systematic manner, which makes it a lot more easier for the customer to understand. If you don't mind, I can just quickly share the screen and show you how the proposal looks like actually, and what are the data points that we cover. Will that
Yeah,
be
that would
okay?
be great. Showing the proposal that we have with the data points, and the financing. That's a huge thing. As Danny said, it's multi-million dollars on these things. You want to make sure that the financing is there in a way that not only the CEO can read it and understand it, but the next step
Even
he's
the
going to go to his
layman, yeah.
numbers guy. So yeah,
Yep.
why don't you pull one up? I'm sure our team would like to see that.
Sure, just a moment. Um, right. Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
I can see me on your screen. There we go.
There we are. All right, so this is a sample proposal, okay, that I've pulled up. And you get the table contents, user note, company overview, and can also attach 3 pictures here of your past executed projects. And then you get your team member details, and this would be the benefit for the environment. So you get the carbon dioxide offset. Here you get the system layout. So anybody interested in this webinar can scan this QR code and get onto the 3D, visualization on your device. Otherwise, I can quickly click on this and then we can go there. I'll wait here for 10 seconds. You guys can scan it up. All right, so here we go. So in ARKA 360, we are also focusing at the detailing of the project, right? So we want to make sure that the customer or the CEO of the company is looking at each and every aspect and what you have taken care of in terms of designing and planning to installations. Okay, so we are taking care of walkways, safety line, handrails that you want to design. And if you want to make it look more aesthetic, you can add trees there. You can add the sheds there and make it look more decorative. And here on the right hand side, we offer this options to play around to the customer so that you can check out the shading analysis, okay, and the accuracy of the design that you have made. And here you get the irradiance map. Okay, so on purpose, I have just kept some panels here and here to show you that what level of accuracy it provides you when you're designing this projects. And if you don't want to play these panels, you can easily remove these panels by just toggling it on and then just removing the panels by scrolling there. Okay, so this is irradiance map and solar axis there. And coming back to this page, here we get a few more informations on the annual generation, and then we have the cash flow, so on and so forth. Just a moment.
All right, perfect. Awesome. So
Here we
so
have
yeah, we're
estimated.
gonna go ahead and we're gonna start our first poll here. So the first poll question that we're gonna have is, let's see here. First poll question number 1. What is the biggest challenge you face in your commercial solar projects? So the initial proposal generation takes too much time. We've talked about that. We've talked about how that kills deals. Accurate site estimation is difficult. So yeah, site walks are troublesome. Limited access to advanced design tools. Scaling engineer services is a challenge, and managing leads efficiently. So as Arv kind of scrolls through this proposal, I'm going to let you guys answer the questions, and then we'll jump to the answers. All right. If we can get all of our attendees to participate in the poll, that would be super awesome. Denny, what do you think?
What do I think?
What's your answer?
I'd say limited access to advanced design tools was one of my biggest challenges.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we're gonna have those answers here pretty soon. And it looks like initial proposal generation takes too much time, and scaling engineering services is a challenge. Yeah, so those are definitely big issues that we face, especially with these larger projects. getting that data, getting that information, that's a difficult one. And that kind of actually leads us into our second point that we've noticed is accurate site estimation tools. So Danny, doing this process and working with these tools that you've mentioned in the past, how has this process slowed things down from you?
Well, like we touched on before, having to, jump between multiple different tools and having to, make sure all that information is correct, data transfer from place to place is, a very large problem.
Yeah. What specific bugs have you noticed or issues that you faced? And how did you guys, you know, if manually overcome it, or did you guys have, I've worked with different commercial companies before, and I remember the guy showed me his screen, and his screen was just Google Drive links to different projects. And he's like, this things get lost all the time. It's a nightmare. I had another guy who he had post-it notes like behind him, and he's like, this is our board. This is where we do our site surveys. This is how everything gets logged.
Oh. Well, the financials, for one thing, are extremely difficult to portray on these proposals, as well as, like we said before, having the imagery combined together in one place. Now, to get over those challenges, often, again, we touched on earlier, Excel spreadsheets would come into play, which is a lot of
Hmm.
manual labor, it's a time suck. It is not where you want to be sitting and spending your time when you're, having your phone ring off the hook with CEOs looking for their proposals.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, we kind of touched on past, like, we'll take a Reef showed us in our 3D design, like most of the site map would be green and good to go, but then there's a corner that's maybe, relatively small, 8 to 10 panels, that those are red and kind of useless. But the business is paying for those panels. And so how would that inaccuracy of data affect the financial implications? So like you're selling a business owner a multi-million-dollar system, he has to pay for 10 panels that are not going to work in a situation, especially nowadays. Every penny counts. How would that inaccuracy affect the financial data that you're presenting to these people?
Well, it's exponential. I mean, just tiny fractional changes will just scale when you're talking about large numbers and large projects such as these. And when often these business owners and building owners are doing things that have to do, the ESG incentives and to abide by certain regulations. So they're not exactly doing it for reasons other than financial purposes. So super important that those things are accurate. I hope that answers your
Hmm.
question.
Yeah, no, that totally does. And like, I just, how is how are those things setting you apart? Because again, that's one thing that I've noticed in talking to these commercial people, is that they want to get set apart because everyone's going to send an Excel spreadsheet. Everyone's going to send initially the same design. Maybe the panels or the hardware is going to change a little bit. But in setting yourself apart when coming to a business owner and showing them a proposal that's going to wow them, how is that data so important to you guys? Especially as a CTO, as someone who looks at these softwares, right? So
Yeah,
you're the person who vets a software, or vets a system for your company. What's something that you look
yeah.
for in this regard specifically?
So accuracy is of the utmost importance if we're speaking technology wise, specifically when you're building out automations, integrations, there's, background calculations going on, high end, high level ones, that if the data coming in is incorrect, all of the data following it is also going to be incorrect.
Hmm.
And that also can flow into the rapport you build with this customer, or lack thereof. You need to know that your information is correct and it's going to accomplish exactly what you say it's going to accomplish with minimal boots on the ground, because that's
Hmm.
the other challenge, is that accuracies of measuring there's limitations to it unless you're actually there. And in order to get access to those grounds, you need to be very convincing and, like I said, build some seriously strong rapport.
Hmm. And so let's focus on that for a second. So, like you said, you're not usually there. You're not on the house. You're not with a measuring tape. It's, you're not taking pictures on your iPhone. You're not usually there. So, how important would a 3D design commercial tool be for those situations where I can't actually be there? But hey, we got a 3D measuring tool. It uses these different mapping analytics to get an accurate depiction of the business that you're looking at, obstruction, tree shade analysis. How would that transport into getting this data? I know being there is going to be the most accurate because you can touch and feel and get it down to the half measure, but how can having a 3D tool that is accurate help move that process along forward? How important would that be to bring to the table?
Well, alone with just the visualization abilities for people to actually be able to picture what they're putting on their building, but just the ability to have those measurements and know for sure you're not just getting the 2D aerial measurements, flat plans, which can be helpful, but there are things, like you said, obstructions. There are constant, the grounds can change, and you need to know that that information is updated, and that maybe a tree is there or no longer there. A building structure has added another story or something. And there's factors that maybe the map isn't, a 2D map really wouldn't cover for you.
And because I know, again, residential, that sitting with a homeowner and actually working with them to design their system, right? Oh, I want to put panels here. I want to put panels here. I don't want to know. And I know that the aesthetics of solar is very important for both commercial and residential. How can this 3D tool of sitting with the CTO and be like, or CEO being like, hey, how do you want to design this system? This is how we design it, but ultimately this is your building. How do you want this to look? Having a tool like that, how does that bring the customer out of a shell a little bit more instead of just like looking at data points, but actually looking at what his business would look like? How has that technology advancement really helped out in the commercial sale?
Well, really being able to involve that individual hands-on, and they get a say in what is going to be put on this building company that they have so much love for and they've built, with their heart and soul. That is something that's very important. Having their skin in the game, they get to have a say in it, really gets them more invested in moving forward with the next steps and understanding exactly what it means to take the next steps and what's expected of them.
Absolutely. And so now let's talk about next steps. Met the CEO. He's like, this is the best proposal I've ever seen in my entire life. I want nothing more than what you've shown me. That's done. Now, as everyone knows in solar, the real work begins, right? We got to submit for electrical. We got to get SLDs in place. We got to get CAD files set up. We got to get all these things going. And Arif mentioned earlier that a lot of times these people have to go to these different softwares, talk to these different people. Is that just a nightmare, or what is that even like for you guys? Like
Am
as
I
a
answering
CTO,
this,
like
or is
having
that
to
for
juggle
Reef?
and manage all these different things. Like what is that like for the company?
I mean, it's extremely stressful. Many balls in the air at one time, and the coordination of these events all together, as well as even just if we're talking about money spend for us as a company, needing access to
It's
all of these
huge.
different accounts and all of these
Hmm.
different subscriptions and softwares and licensing, and this person needs access, this person needs access, and the more and more you grow, it compounds, and it's something you always need to kind of keep on your radar as to how many different areas am I going to have to reach to with this information in order to get it across the finish line.
Yeah.
Just a quick
Yeah.
question for you, Denny. Um,
Hmm.
how many times it has been like, you have closed a commercial project and then you have started working on the layouts, permit plans, and then you have to go back and do the revision, and how much time does it take again?
Oh man, revisions are the worst. They can set you so far back, but that's why it's super important to have a really structured schedule, a plan of action, and communicating that clearly with the customer. You need them to work with you here. You need to be on site, like we said before, physically, or sending somebody who is nearby on site to get measurements as soon as you close that deal, because there can't, like we said before, we can't have those kind of inaccuracies that will grow exponentially from the starting point. And then the
That's right.
additional charges that incur when you need a redesign,
Awesome.
you're going to have to worry about those things as well, and that's going to all affect your bottom line.
Yep, makes
Arif,
sense.
what have you heard talking to these EPCs that can kind of coincide with Denny's experience?
So what I've heard from the EPC installers that do we have to again redesign the entire 2D 3D model to if I have to make any changes, maybe if I have to reduce some panels, if I have to make any changes to the building height or the tilt of the building, do I have to really do the redesigning? So this is first question that I get, but my answer is no. Not on all the platforms. Mostly there are some platforms that will where you have to do that, and the limitations, right? Since you're already going to do the designing in 2D and 3D on a single platform, and then you again have to, once you have closed the deal, you again have to go ahead on AutoCAD and do the permit plans and make those, like, permits to get the approval and get the installation done. But as Denny mentioned, like, there are cases, and most of the time, like, maybe 10 out of maybe 3 or 4 times, there are some revisions required because because of some miscalculations and some changes in the plan by the customer. So these are really like, costing a lot to the installers, and it's an additional cost, an additional number of days which is involved there. So these are the concerns that they have raised.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then once you have that done, then you still have to go through engineering and permitting, and as Denny mentioned before, there's a lot of balls in the
Yeah.
air of people you have to deal with, and so streamlining that into one place. How important has that been for your company, Denny, that handles a lot of these commercial projects, especially on the East Coast down in Florida where you guys are? Having it so we at ARKA say one throat to choke in regards to getting projects done. Like how has that changed your business or changed your guys' timeline?
Well, not only does it help with efficiency of the project and timelines, but it also helps with accountability and how many hands are touching it. Accountability will play a large factor in a lot of these. If someone's not happy, someone's going to often be stuck with the price, and you want to make sure that everything is as controlled as you can possibly make it by keeping it all in house. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
know I have to say one of the things that ARKA offered were their PE stampings, their designs, and their electrical drawings. That was something we found incredibly useful because they were already familiarized with the design. Everything is in one place. They understand from conception what was being asked of them in helping us with this project, and often we're using them for the designs in themselves to generate the first original proposal. So carrying it through, it's nice to not have to start over each time, and starting from the top.
Yeah, and I bet it's also nice, as you said before, having it so if the engineers have questions, they can actually just turn and go directly to
Yes.
the person who actually designed it and say, hey, we have these questions. If they're, unfortunately, as Arif was saying, revisions do happen. Instead of having to play a game of telephone with two different companies, you can actually just go directly to the person inside our platform who made it and say, okay, these are the revisions that we need. It is time. Unfortunately, there's a cost associated with this, but the time that is taken prior to this is negligible and compared to what we can offer it now.
And I could interject, you said revisions do happen. I mean, in commercial, revisions are expected. They're anticipated
Yeah.
and they're factored in. So knowing that whoever we're working with to help us cross the finish line with this project understands that as well, is just, it becomes synergistic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Now, one thing that you've kind of touched on and mentioned before, and Arif kind of touched on it too, but I want to talk about it because I know that it is an important factor here, is actually managing these leads. Denny, a company like Patriot that gets so many, new leads coming in. You guys have taken a lot of the brunt with the two big companies that recently shut their doors. I know you guys are handling a lot of those. How has that organization process been for you guys? With CRMs, with getting sales teams up to date, everything like that.
Well, it was extremely challenging, especially in the beginning, integrating and automating and making sure all of these systems are communicating with each other properly. And that was a huge uphill battle. But once we got there, it was, the efficiency couldn't be matched, really.
Yeah, yeah. And what tools are current people using? How are people currently doing this, to your knowledge?
Managing their leads, CRMs, freestanding CRMs often are how they're being managed. And the CRMs such as Monday or Zoho, things like that, they're often not connected to other systems as well. So that information can only be so valuable. And then we return back to the data entry concern. Mistakes happen. We're all human, especially when we're working quickly on many projects and dealing with various kinds of numbers, long numbers, financial numbers, and we haven't even touched base on the financing part of it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's, a lot of tools and a lot of automations that take place, but I think what one thing you're saying is that, it's just it's just too much data. Like it's too many customers, too many moving. I mean, you're dealing with millions and millions of dollars here, and the organizational aspect of having a CRM is key. I know when I was doing my solar sales, we used a CRM that it felt like we really had to be flexible on the verbiage that we were using for a stage or status of a certain project. So rather than using the solar lexicon that we had to adjust to fit something else, which was just, it was confusing. Stuff would get lost. Customers would be confused because sales reps would be confused. And then we had to talk to our boss who was also confused. So, a solar specific CRM is something, especially for commercial with these big projects that, really kind of make or break a company. Arif, in talking to these people, what frustrations or concerns have they noticed on this specific issue?
Not able to actually customize the pipeline, okay, the way they want, and maybe not having the task management tools there that can help them remind the pending task and schedule a task maybe, or internally assigning tasks to someone else who can look after a deal which is spoiled, maybe some expert. So these are some concerns that has been raised with regards to CRM.
If I could also
Absolutely.
add, knowing
Yeah.
what to expect next and the next steps,
Yeah.
suggested points of action, having those things there as well have been extremely helpful. It's a very different process from residential, and often we make the transition from residential to commercial. So having those distinctions between the two is really helpful.
Got it.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, cool. So we are going to launch our second poll. We'd love to have everyone's feedback on this. So yes, if we could, here's our second poll here. Which aspect of your solar project workflow do you wish you could improve the most? Speeding up proposal creation, enhancing accuracy in site assessments, integrating 3D design for better decision making, expanding in-house engineering capacity, streamlining customer relationship management. And all three of those would be wonderful.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, I think
Do I have to
there
pick?
was supposed to be one more option. All of the above.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Yeah, it kind of sucks that all the resi guys get all the best tools.
I do somewhat agree with Joe on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just waiting for a little bit more answers to come in. And then once we get those, we'll go on to the next one. So we'll keep this up for a little bit longer. All right. So yeah, so while we wait for those answers to come back, oh, here they are. So it looks like we have another tie, speeding up proposal creation. So that's something that we definitely talked about, is how time kills all deals. And Denny mentioned that even in commercial, that is something that's very problematic in the industry, that it takes so long to get a design rendering. And then streamlining customer relationship management with CRM. So yeah, totally. I think that's something that stands true in both the residential and the commercial aspect of it. Where having something like this, really just keeps the customers engaged, keeps everyone involved, that nothing goes into like a black hole of emails or anything like that. So the next topic that we're going to talk about here is something that has been coming up a lot more, and it's something that, we really want to convey and kind of talk about. And if there's any questions about this, or anyone has any comments, people in the attendance, like, please post them in the chat, because this is something that we want to talk about, right, with you guys, with people in the audiences, is battery storage and solutions. Now I know that batteries, especially in the wake of the NEM 3 regime in California, has really taken an uptick, right? It's really either made sales or broken down sales. Companies that have been around for so many years are gone, but batteries have really kind of stepped up to be the solution for that, and we've noticed that in residential. But how is that affecting commercial? How has this new rise of batteries and the 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 enhancement and the projection that these batteries are taking, they're getting longer lasting, more durable, being able to handle more loads. Denny, from a CTO's perspective, and I'm not asking you to be the battery expert here, but from your perspective, how have you seen this change? How have you seen companies, especially businesses, are they asking about batteries more? Are they more, interested in storage rather than they were 3 years ago?
Yes. I mean, hands down, yes, it's a hot topic. It's a curious one. Everyone's interested in learning about the newest tech going on there. And with these, ever-changing rates, increasing rates, demand charges, ERGOT markets, it's understandable.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm Arif, as you're sitting in these demos, and because I'm talking to commercial people as well, and a lot of them say like, "Oh, do you have commercial batteries?" They've listed some pretty heavy hitters in the battery industry that may have commercial battery applications. But what have you noticed in talking to these people? Do they have concerns? Do they anything like that?
Yes, I do have. I mean, I have heard this comments from my customers that they need a platform wherein they can do the battery calculations with accuracy and also show the additional savings that the customer will be getting if he goes with battery. And if it doesn't go with battery, what he would be losing on. So this kind of conversation has been there.
Hmm. And I know there's companies out there, like stores, for example, they have a great battery calculator. Their battery calculator is more for um, residential. Have you seen anything about a commercial battery calculator or a large load calculator or something that, you know, takes these kind of issues a little bit more seriously? Denny, again, I'm going to rely on your CTO experience. What are you seeing from like a financial aspect or, from a modeling aspect even?
that I It's very challenging to find a good modeling tool for commercial batteries and that kind of a scale and that kind of a size. I have not yet found one that I feel extremely confident in because it's an ever changing technology. However, that would be something extremely helpful.
Okay. And I want to open this up to the participants here. You guys can drop a chat, or if you have something, anything that you guys want to say that is a concern or any experiences that you guys want to mention, go ahead and drop it in the chat, and we'll definitely discuss it. Um, you know, but we're gonna get poll number 3 up and going here a little bit, and then we're gonna open it up for Q&A. So while you guys are, typing out those questions or anything about that, um, let's get poll number 3 going, and then at the end we're going to take we got a lot of Q&A, so we're going to take some of your Q&A questions. So the last question, of course, are you guys interested in exploring ARKA, how to help you guys overcome your challenges? We're here to help. So ARKA 360 kind of came from solar. Everyone who works at the company on the software end in some form of another was a sales rep sitting at a seat or was a solar manager or an engineer or something. And so we've really taken into time and consideration these features and these aspects. So we want to open this last question up to you guys, to talk about it, and also to get your feedback, to get what would be important to you guys. So this isn't just a demo, but it's also a learning session for everyone involved. So I'm gonna keep this open for the next couple minutes, and then after this, we are going to open up the Q&A. So any questions, comments, any concerns that you guys want to, and then at the end, we're gonna show you guys how to actually sign up and set up for a demo with ARKA 360 with Arif and myself.
Yes.
So it's a little bit more time so all our attendees can participate. And then we're going to have that last poll here. All right, perfect. So yeah, so you guys are interested in joining the demo. So we're going to post a link in the chat of this meeting that you guys can click on to schedule a demo with one of our sales team. And you know, if you guys have any questions like going into it, or you want to see a full start to stop project, or maybe you guys have a project you're working on that you want us to do for you, send it our way. We want to do that for you guys. We want to set you guys up. Perfect. So thank you so much for joining. The link is in the demo, or the link for the demo is in the chat. Click it, you know, feel free to reach out. Also, if you guys have any questions or just want to send us an email and kind of have an open dialogue, you can email myself or RF directly. Before we start the Q&A, I want to thank Denny for joining us. I know she's very busy. So thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us and kind of share your experience in this
Thank you for having me.
particular field. So we're going to have some questions here. So the first question we have here is ground maintenance yearly. I think he's asking the question if we can do ground mounts. Yes. So we have a ground mount feature in our software. It's actually pretty cool. It shows the tilt, it shows the panels, it even shows the stations that they're on, and you can actually make them larger or smaller. We have multiple different trackers. We have dual access, single access. We also have east-west racking system. So you can kind of you know, do anything on that. The
If you're
second
speaking
question.
to the maintenance portion of it, ground mount systems require minimal maintenance, just like most other systems. In fact, quite less than even a roof mount.
Yeah, I think you just have to get some goats. The goats will just eat all the grass. You don't have to do anything for it.
That's right.
Zoning dependent on government public land, ESG incentives, the storage, multimeter, any
There's a lot of
specials.
ESG incentives out there right now, and it is pretty much entirely decided on by local regulations and government. There are national or federal incentives as well as local ones. That's a very specific question that's gonna be based on exactly where you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it, you know, as Denny said, it's gonna be based on where you're at, but ARKA is flexible enough to hit those marks if you need to. So if you have one in particular that you'd like to show us, click the link, and you know, we'd be more than happy to answer that. One of the questions we got is, can I import helioscope models into ARKA? Do you guys integrate with utility API? So yes. So we have an integration with utility API. We also have the green button data. So if you're in an area that utility API doesn't work with, you can actually upload interval data, green button data into the software. Also, if you are working with a utility that isn't in utility API's wheelhouse or genability or anything like that, if you send us the spec sheets on that utility, like their rates, we'll be more than happy to put it in for you. And then we can work with you to keep that live and up to date. The other question is related to energy storage. Does the ARKA tool model DCM and grid services? Yes, we model those as well. Yeah, so all of that's part of our utility base that we have. Grid services, grid tied, everything like that. The only thing I say that we wouldn't do is in front of the meter or large scale solar utility projects. We're not quite able to do those yet, but that is something that we are tracking and managing. So we got one more question here. Since we're talking about few commercial projects, The most sophisticated clients and financiers want to see production estimate model in PV-Syst. Some will allow that helioscope is on par with PV-Syst. How can ARKA demonstrate that the software's production estimates are as dependable as helioscope and PV-Syst? Put us to the test. Do one in
Absolutely.
PV-Syst, do one in helioscope, send one to us. If you're part of the webinar, we'll give you a free project. Send one to us. We'll do it for you. You can compare the numbers. But from what we've noticed, we're on par with all the top modeling services. So that's our challenge to you. Put it to the test. Run the numbers for yourself. We've worked with multiple different companies, multiple different commercial EPCs and installers and finance people to get our numbers where they're at. So, that's something that we're quite proud of. We're not ashamed. We'll give you a full kimono view of our software to show you how we run the numbers. So last question here is, do funders typically accept ARKA models for PPA financing? Yes. Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah, so we totally model those things. One more question that we had here is how many projects completed, duration, and future pledges. So we just, I don't have like the exact commercial numbers that we did. I know that we probably do about 3 to 5 commercial projects a week from multiple different companies, Patriot Power included. We got a couple others. We also have companies who actually design the projects themselves on hand. And part of our services, if you are an engineer and you're designing it, we don't keep track of those projects. So you can create as many as you want in there, and it's not going to be a limited fee on those things. How can you demonstrate via white paper or similar? Yeah, so we can totally demonstrate our readings are accurate. We can show you those things as well
So
in a demo. Go ahead, Arif.
yeah, just to answer Daniel's question there. So basically PV-Syst is using Pare's model, and we are also using the Pare's model there to calculate the generation numbers. And at the same time, we are using the similar, exactly the same, what do you say, the weather files, metronome weather files. PV-Syst is using like metronome, helioscope is using metronome, even we are using metronome. So the numbers are almost going to be similar, minor, maybe 0.01% change, but that doesn't make a big change there, and it's totally acceptable.
And if it adds any confidence to the situation, being able to API into financiers and lenders is an extremely difficult challenge to accomplish. And being that ARKA has successfully integrated custom APIs with several different financing companies and funders for commercial solar, that is a high bar to reach and mark to reach. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Mm-hmm. All right. So last thing we're gonna hit, but we're gonna start closing this up so we can get on with our day. Last thing is I want to ask about the overlap of ARKA and Aurora services for residential solar. So yeah, we can talk about that later.
Talk about
Denny's
that all
got some
day.
feelings, as you can see. So yeah, who asked that question? Yeah, let's jump on that offline and be more than happy to answer that with you. That is a great question. So yeah, thank you so much for joining, guys. Denny, again, thank you so much for your insight and for your time. This is recorded, so if you guys want to circle back on this, or if any of the attendees have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, through my LinkedIn in the chat.
Thanks.